What's up, y'all, and welcome to episode 152 of the Take One Podcast. I'm your host, August C. Jones, and today it's mainly reviews. I mean, we have trailer reviews, we have movie reviews, we have a show review or episode review for WandaVision, the latest episode, and we're going to be talking a little bit about Paramount Plus, a kind of new streaming service, which is kind of not, but we'll get into that later on. But that's really what this podcast is all about today. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get right into things. So, as we all know, the Super Bowl happened this past Sunday. And everything that's attached to the Super Bowl, which we've grown to know and love, are the trailers for the big blockbuster movies, as well as commercials and everything else, the ridiculous type of commercials. And so the one thing that concerns me is not the football. You know, some of the commercials are cool, but the trailers to these big blockbuster movies are, more concerning, not concerning, but, more interesting to me than anything else. Now, this year, I didn't know if there were going to be any trailers during the Super Bowl, just because of the simple fact of the C word takeover and just a lot of movies being pushed back. Even movies that were set in this year got pushed to 2022. So it was like, are they really going to shell out that much money per a 30-minute ad at the Super Bowl if it's not even certain if that movie is going to keep that release date, let alone stay, on the release of this year? So I was expecting not to have any ads, but hey, we got some trailers. Some of them wasn't that great. Some of them was just, but we did get one good one, which I'm going to get into that. So the first one I'm going to talk about is F9, which is the ninth installment into the Fast and Furious franchise. And I'm not counting Hobbs and Shaw. I'm talking about straight the Fast and Furious movies. And it has a new TV spot. It shows some new stuff, but it doesn't really show too much because it's not that long of an ad. It does have some ridiculousness, as usual, as we grown and known to expect from the Fast and Furious franchise, from the fourth one all the way up to now. And it looks in one scene like a magnet is pulling a car through a building into a truck or whatnot. And more than likely that's what it is, because that's what it looked like. We didn't see the magnet, or at least I didn't see it up in the trailer or whatnot, but it looks crazy. Like, what the hell? It just seemed like they're trying to top what they did in the last film with the more current film. But really, that was all that was of interest. I mean, it did show more scenes of Charlize Theron's character, of John Cena's character, and everything else. But, I mean, everything was really just kind of the same. This movie comes out May 28th, but at the end, it did say in theaters soon, which is, I think, their way of not cementing that release date, just laying down sand, just in case they got to get up and move it to another release date. They can do it. And not really just establishing that it's coming out May 28th. Like, yeah, we're sticking our flag in the ground. That was just kind of like what I felt like they were saying. So with that, that's kind of really all my thoughts on it. It was one of the better mini, teasers or, TV spots for a movie. The next one is Nobody. Of course, it's reminiscent of John Wick, and it has really no major change from the first trailer, and it was, I really didn't care for it. Really, it was just a dumbed down little tiny version of the first trailer with just maybe a couple new scenes and shots, but it wasn't really nothing spectacular. This movie comes out April 2nd, and it may end up being moved, don't know, but I mean, that was one of the trailers that was just like, oh, okay, they could have kept that. They literally could have kept that and just, not even spent the money on it. The next trailer that I'm going to talk about, which is the best trailer out of all of them, is the Falcon and the Winter Soldier TV spot. And this actually gave us a lot more than what we've gotten in the other trailers, just separate from them. You got Baron Zemo in full effect. It shows a little bit more about, kind of what he's into. As you can see up in the trailer, it has great visuals, and they kind of utilize Cap's shield up in there. You see Falcon Sam, he throws it, like Captain America would, like Steve Rogers would. But then you have, not in the same shot, but you see Bucky catch the shield, which we've seen him do before, especially up in the Captain America Winter Soldier. It was up in the trailer when Cap threw it at him. He just caught it like that. So you see them kind of playing around with it, but then it's like, where and when and why does that shield come into play? Like, is one of them going to use it on a mission? Is Cap coming back? Which I doubt it, but when and how and why does it come into play if they're going to be both having their just own personas as, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So it's kind of like speculation of what may happen with the shield. And they might be going through like a little therapist, because this seems really like it's like a good cop, bad cop, or just a buddy cop show or whatever that they're gonna have going on. And it looks to be fucking entertaining, because the characters, as we gotten up in Captain America Civil War, they kind of have like a respect for each other, but at the same time they kind of have like a dislike or whatever toward each other. But they were just they kind of, like, I guess you could say, just had to like or just stand each other because of Cap, because they do consider Cap as a great friend. Also in the trailer, you got Agent 13, who looks incredible in her fight scene that it shows her up in. And a lot of the action scenes and fight scenes just outside of that looks incredible. And then it showed a little bit of a fight scene on the train with the Falcon and the Winter Soldier that looks incredible. And just even when you get to the end, it shows a little bit more of the back and forth that they're gonna have with each other throughout the whole series, with the eye contest, the staring contest or whatnot, and just them acting stupid, just trying to one up each other. And that seemed like what is gonna be throughout the whole series. But it comes out March 19th, which is after, more than likely, WandaVision ends, so they're gonna keep that momentum going from this, instead of just dropping a good show and then having a long hiatus before you put out something else that people would come to Disney Plus for. But I mean, that out of all of them was the best trailer, and more just to get out of, as you can tell with me talking longer about it. But the next one is Raya and the Last Dragon. And this was another so-so trailer. They just was like, they literally could have kept it. Out of all the stuff that they could have put money in to advertise for Super Bowl, I guess because it's coming up, it's coming out, March 5th, and it really has nothing new to it besides that it's about to come out, on Premiere Access for $30, or you can see it in theaters for, just $10 per person or whatever. So, I don't know. It's whatever tickles your fancy. Really didn't care too much for it. I am really wanting to see this movie, but it was just that ad is like, it really gave us really not too much to digest from it. And the last spot that I'm going to talk about is a M. Night Shyamalan movie that I'm just now really hearing about it. I hadn't heard anything else about this, but it's called Old, and it's just about a family who goes on the beach, and for some reason their kids are getting older. Like, it has a weirdness to it that you would expect from an M. Night Shyamalan movie, or even just now a A24 movie, kind of like Hereditary or The Witch or something like that. And it looks to have a twist, of course. How M. Night Shyamalan does. And because it takes place on the beach, it reminds me of last year's movie, Fantasy Island, who kind of, it took place on the beach, and then, the movie, you already can tell, has a twist to it. So, it just reminds me of that. But the movie is set to come out July 23rd, and it looks interesting. I would just love to see a new trailer to it. I'm sorry, my job. But I would love to see more of an official full-length trailer to it. That way I can digest more of what it's actually about. But those are all the trailers for the Super Bowl that, I really cared enough to talk about. Some of them, like I said, was just so-so, but, it's whatever. But the Falcon and Winter Soldier was by far the best one. But with that said, let's go ahead and move to the next thing, which is a spoiler review of WandaVision episode 5, which I have literally a lot to unpack on this, because this episode, out of the 4 prior episodes, have a lot to digest just in one episode. And it astounds me that they've made a Marvel show. Just think about that. A Marvel show where you really don't have any type of action thus far. And I'm not talking about like Monica Rambeau being thrown out of the hex, as they call it now, but I'm talking about like pure action, like an action scene, car chase, fighting, whatever. We have not had any of that up to this point, and for some reason they're able to keep, the attention of the people that's watching it, because as you're watching it from episode 1 to episode 1 to episode 5, it's then gotten better as as everything starts to unravel. Not even just behind the scenes of just how everything is getting to where it's gotten, but just with everything falling apart with the kind of like reality that Wanda has created. Because in this episode, a lot, just on the surface and under the surface stuff has came out, and you start to realize stuff. So yeah, like I said, it's a lot to unpack. It's a lot of just stuff falling apart, because throughout the whole episode, you have Vision really just trying to find out what the hell is going on after speaking with people, because he's able to take people out of their mind, out of the mind control that Wanda has them under, and actually get some type of bits of information. And he's done that to a guy that he works with, and we realize that it hurts to be under that mind control, and that people are freaking out when he does the thing, takes his coworker out of her mind control. It's like he starts freaking out. Like, I need to call my wife. Like, he just starts freaking out. So you can tell, like, they're cognizant of what's going on, but they just can't stop themselves. It's not like they're, blacked out and then, just, the mind control takes over and they can't remember everything. They know everything that's going on. They know what they're saying. They know how they're acting. It's just they can't, control themselves or speaking and acting in a way that Wanda wants them to speak and act. And so, but this episode takes place in the late 80s, early 90s, and it's kind of like a Full House, Growing Pains, and other type of shows around that era. And so, with saying that, this episode feels more nostalgic for me, because I am a late 80s baby and a 90s kid. So I am more familiar with, a Full House, somewhat of Growing Pains. That wasn't just like my cup of tea, but, shows that came out around that decade or within that time frame is more, familiar to me than, I Love Lucy's and Brady Bunches and stuff. The episodes, they kind of like covered the time frame of that. So, but this episode is a lot more intense than the other previous episodes, and it's really within the things that you discover going along the way, especially with the stuff with Vision. But it gets to the point where Vision just constantly gets closer, and as he gets closer, he gets a little bit more antsy. Like, he wants to know. He basically demanding answers from Wanda, to the point where they're at a standoff, where he literally flies up and she flies up ready to go for battle, but it's all coming out of passion. And also we find out that Vision has no memory of before. I mean, because of course in Infinity War he was killed twice, first by Wanda and then by Thanos. So he has no memory of anything before he was awakened in the Hex. And he's trying to figure out what the hell is going on. So all he's getting from Wanda is that everything that's going on is for us. And she's really not giving him anything more than that. And along as we find out, just through the verbal exchange between them, is I think Wanda may only be able to control adults because he did basically come out and ask her, like, why isn't there any kids around? You know, what happened to all the kids? Even though in a episode prior, I think it was, yeah, episode 2, you have them doing like a magic show for a school which has kids in it. But if there's no kids around, what the hell is going on? And so he's questioning that. So more than likely, it's to the fact where she probably can only mind control adults, and it's harder to control with kids. Which I'm gonna, it's, I guess you could say, it's kind of hinted in the way that she tries to control her kids. Now, it could be due to the fact that her kids have abilities. Because in the comic books, I'm not well versed in there, but in the comic books, her kids have abilities, so they more likely carry that on to the show. So it may be due to the fact that her kids have abilities to the point where they're hard to control because she's a very powerful person, Vision is very powerful, so it's like the kids are going to be extremely powerful. So that's probably due to the fact of that, but maybe it's also due to the fact that she can't control kids because when we see the kids, they're babies and they're crying, and it gets to the point where she can't take it, and they end up getting older. I think like around 7 or 8 or something like that. They become little kids, and then they keep growing throughout the show or throughout the episode. And it seems like she can't control it because once it gets to the point where the dog dies and she says that you'll understand or it gets better when you get older, she realized that she has to tell him, like, don't get older, which shows that she has no control over that. So more than likely, it is due to the power that they hold, maybe just inside the hex, or maybe she just also just can't control kids. So maybe it's just either one or the other, or maybe it's just a balance of both. But it is very interesting. But it's like also like from this episode, it really sinks in what this episode is, well, what this show is really all about. Because when you look at the episodes and the reason why she's doing this, it's like it's all about grief. You know, when you look back at the other movies, now, I mean, as far as a writing standpoint, you know, as like an actual writer of these movies, you more than likely can't spend too much time on the mind frame of Wanda. You have to deal with whatever that movie is about. And I get that. But up to this point, we haven't heard too much about her brother. You know, nobody has really said too much about it. She hasn't spoken on it like that. So in these episodes so far, we've heard more about people asking about Pietro than we've heard before this show aired. And with them doing that, you kind of know that they were getting up to that point. They was putting it in people's minds. Like, you know, like Wanda has. And it's when you get down and think about this episode, it really just all about loss. It's all about depression and just grief, you know, and just how a person deals with it. And this is how Wanda's dealing with it. She can't, like, she's lost her brother. She's lost her family first, her mother and father. Then she lost her brother in Age of Ultron. And then she lost Vision before, you know, the blip. And now it's like she has really nobody else that, you know, that she's that close to. And so this is her way of bringing all that to life to where she don't have to live without Vision. And as we can see, apparently, that she don't have to live without her brother, which I'm going to speak on that in a little bit. But it really is just all about loss. It's all about just, you know, trying to deal with it. And how she can't deal with it. And just, you know, it's one of those deeper episodes. And I just love the way that they kind of like circled this whole show just really around that. And it makes it a little bit more deeper than what we would see on the surface. I mean, it's not just your not temporary, but it's not just your typical, you know, show where it's just surface level, this and that. It's a superhero show, and then it's about, you know, this and that. it's like it goes deeper. It makes it more relatable. But all around, this show is just floating with the existence of the situation to where oh my god, like this it's a really I just love where they were going with this as far as it goes. It's just, to me, it's genius. It's genius, especially even when the dog Spark or Sparks or whatever dog name. I mean, it comes from the comic book, but even when he dies, it's still dealing with loss, and that's when it hit me. Like, okay, this is constantly dealing with loss, and how the kids have to deal with it, and it's just all around. This episode is just crazy, all the way up to the point that we see Evan Peters come back and reprise his role as Quicksilver. But if you all know, he was Quicksilver in the X-Men movies. Most definitely. And it's just, I found that funny as hell. I really did. That, that they didn't bring back Aaron Taylor Johnson for, this role, that they would squeeze that in there. Because I'm like, I know that will freak a lot of people out. And I was reading something that the creator, he wanted to basically bring him in there, but he wanted, basically Kevin Feige told him he could do it, but it has to make sense. And so this to me makes sense as far as right now. We don't know what's going to happen with the other later episodes, but to bring him in as kind of like a cameo and just to recognize the fact that, a lot of characters get recast, like the actors, it may be played by a different actor and everything else. They recognize that because you hear Darcy even say she recast her brother, and just the fact that they chose Evan Peters to play her brother in this movie is just crazy as hell. And I'm pretty sure that they knew that was going to bring a lot of speculation, a lot of talk, and make this episode, on top of what they've layered in this episode, another thing to talk about. And really, it just brought in because a lot of people believe that this is what's going to happen. This is a way to bring the X-Men into the MCU, and that he is going to stay permanently and be Quicksilver and everything else. And because this is the first part of the multiverse trilogy, which is WandaVision, the third Spider-Man movie, part of the Homecoming series, and then it's gonna lead or end in Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness, which is gonna have Wanda in there. More than likely, this is a kind of way of doing it in that type of sense. Maybe she has a hand in why it happens. So I don't know. But it was a big surprise. It really was, because I kind of figured when they showed the back of his head, I'm like, that's Pedro. That's Quicksilver. And like I'm thinking that's Aaron Taylor Johnson. But then I'm like, man, what if it was, the other Quicksilver? And bam, it's the other Quicksilver. So it's just, now that they have the Fox property, they're going to be able to do a lot more stuff like this with the characters and even just the actors if they wanted to, if it does make sense, which I thought this was just gold. I really thought it was just gold. But yeah, it shows a lot. It shows that they're bringing a lot of stops out to this show and just really just trying to do the best thing that they can, and it shows. And up in this episode, it also shows the first time that Wanda, knowingly to us, has stepped outside the hex, and she does it in a badass just type of way. There's a drone that's being flown up in there. She comes out dragging the drone in her regular kind of like attire that we normally are used to seeing Wanda in, and she literally threatened, like, stay out of my home, leave me alone, and I'll leave you alone. And so they basically tell her that, we can't do that. You're holding people hostage. Like, this isn't cool, Wanda. And so basically, before she goes back into the hex, she uses her power and turns everybody's gun on the, I guess, the director of S.W.O.R.D. and just walks back into it, and she does something, maybe makes it more, makes it stronger and penetrable. I don't know, but she just does something that I believe that's what she's doing. Anyway, but also it shows that Sword has footage of her breaking into their facility, taking Vision's body and leaving with it. More than likely, they're doing experiments, trying to do what Shield did with the Satiri Tech from the first Avengers movie, and just trying to figure out like how can we weaponize Vision and everything else. So it's like I feel like Sword in some type of capacity may end up becoming the kind of villain for right now in this series. You have Monica Rambeau as kind of the hero, and then you have a villain in the making with Wanda, which I think everything is going to be taken from her again, which is going to take her to start driving a multiverse type thing. That's why I feel like she's going to play the villain in Doctor Strange, and a lot of the multiverse stuff that happens is more than likely going to be caused by her, since she's showing that she has immense power at this point to even just do what she's been doing from episode 1 to now. So I think that's where they're going to be going, and really she's just showing the motive of a, I guess you could say, great villain or a sympathetic villain, someone that we can relate to. We understand why this villain is doing this, and she's not doing it because like, oh, I want to be evil now. It's like she's sad, she's depressed, like she is grieving. She doesn't want to live without her brother and the person that she's in love with. And so now it's like she's gonna do whatever it takes to get that. So she may go above and beyond and may end up doing a lot more damage than she is doing good, and it's all for the sake of just not being without the people that she loves. And it's just, it literally is, man, they just pulling out all the stops when it comes to this show. And they do make a statement which kind of like was funny, but when you think about it, it's like, how would they know? So they made a statement about how, Wanda and Captain Marvel both could have took down Thanos single-handedly and everything else, and one person saying like Captain Marvel did, they could have, and then the other person said that like Wanda, she could have, or whatever. But then it's like, how would they know? They wasn't there during the battle. So, and then a lot of them were just waking up from that point. So it was like, how did they know? It wasn't no helicopters or drones that we know of flying around the area and, just taking pictures and recording everything. But it was like, how did they even know, that Captain Marvel did come close to taking out Thanos, and that Wanda most definitely came really extremely close to being able to take down Thanos if he wasn't like raining fire or whatever at that point. So it just kind of like, how would they even know? I mean, that's something that, us as an audience member would, discuss amongst each other, but it's like, nah, that's just something that those characters wouldn't have known. And they need to explain that. How would they even know? But other than that, man, that is really all I have to say about it. Like I said, it's a lot to unpack for this episode. Like it has an extreme amount of just stuff to just soak in, And I feel like this is one of the better episodes, if not the best episode thus far. But I mean, so far they are just literally knocking it out the park. I just can't wait to see the other, episodes and seeing where it all leads to. Because I feel like after this show ends, we're gonna be like, oh, we need to see Homecoming 3. We need to see this movie now, and that comes at the end of this year. So we're gonna have to wait. Man, we're gonna have to wait. What seems like it's gonna be forever, but Homecoming 3 seems to be, and that's not the real title, but Spider-Man Homecoming 3 is coming out at the end of this year. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump right into the next review, which is a review of the new Netflix movie Malcolm and Marie. Now, so this is a movie that was shot last year during the shutdown, and it only stars two people, which is John David Washington and Zendaya. And basically, it's just about just two people who are just literally having a conversation throughout the course of the night. John David Washington plays a guy who is a director, and he finally wins an award, and he feels like he's getting respect or whatever for, you know, one of his films. And during his speech, he forgot to thank his significant other. And so when they get home, it literally just all comes out. And this film, I could say straight off the bat, has phenomenal acting. I just kind of knew it just because I'm more familiar with John David Washington and what he's been doing with Tenet, Black Klansman. I just really been liking what he's been doing. And plus, he's Denzel Washington's son. So, it shows that acting, kind of runs in the family. But he does a phenomenal job. And Zendaya, I'm not too familiar with like her work, but she is the lead of a show, Euphoria, on HBO, which I have yet to watch, but I'm definitely gonna check it out. But I felt like this is going to be a movie to watch out for, and it is very character driven because it's just two people having a conversation throughout the course of just one night. And like I said, like just phenomenal acting from both the leads. And just it's really just character driven throughout the whole film. And I love how the conversations go from good to bad. And it's just repeatedly like it gets heated and then it's calmed down. And it gets heated and then it's calmed down. Basically, the best way to put it is a emotional roller coaster. And I just love the aspect because it is reminiscent to, conversations that a person may have in a relationship. If you have a lot of things you need to air out, you might have your real heated moments, and then you might have the calm moments, and then all of a sudden, I thought about something else. Bam, bam, we go back. It may end up being that way. So, I mean, it's not unrealistic to look at it in that type of sense. And because they are working with, like, limitations at the time, I mean, even now, but even then, with COVID and everything that's going around, it was like they literally, the breakdown of each other that they do, because they literally go in on each other and bring out just the bad shit, just to kind of like win the argument and just make their point. It doubles as them giving exposition to us that we know more about this person's past, that person's past. And even because we can't see it, like it's just literally focused on them throughout the night. We can't see anything else. We can't see what happened and how the night played out beforehand, why it got to this point. We can't see flashbacks of, the person's past and everything else. We can only be told, and this was like the best way of telling us by just tearing each other down. Like, you're this and you're this. Remember back in the day, it's like, I love just how they did it. It's like it wasn't a cliche of way of giving exposition. It was actually a way of giving exposition that made sense, that didn't really seem cheap or anything of that nature, even though it was cheap. But I mean, I love how they did that. It was really something that was actually just creative, because when you don't have too much, you have to work with what you got. And that was a great way of giving insight to the audience about these characters. That way we'll be more familiar with them as the night goes along. That way it's like, okay, we taking that side, we taking this side. No, we're gonna take this side. And that's literally what was happening as I was watching. It's like, dang, okay, I'm down. Okay, I understand where he's coming from. And then she'll go and they're like, okay, I understand where she's coming from. And like, oh, I understand. And it just kept going. And it was actually pretty damn entertaining. And of course, it was just like, man, it shows that good works of art can come from something as bad, just as like the pandemic that we're in, that a person just went into this knowing the limitations, like, okay, we're about to do this. We about to go ahead and do that. And just was able to come out with something so grand, something gold. Got two phenomenal actors and just literally went forward with it and just nailed it. And this movie, to its credit, holds a heavy emotional weight that both actors do a great job with conveying, as they're just bringing a huge amount of energy to their performances, with having each other just play off the other person. because that's really all that they have. Like, all you can do is just play off the other actor. Because, like, there is nothing else to play off of. There's no other people, no other actors, no nothing. It's just them going off of each other. And that, I feel like, if anything, besides doing it yourself or, just trying to, come up with that energy yourself, that would be kind of, like, hard but easy to do. But, I mean, I guess it's depending on how you look at it. But at the end of the day, this is a great and engaging film that just took advantage of this time in the history that puts the whole world in just a bad place and just made the best out of it. With the emotions being hard hitting, with the sadness, the happiness, the anger, the film delivers something that I think people just couples are going to be talking about for a long time after it's over. And it's great filmmaking. It really is. And a lot of the stupid stuff that people point out, like, oh, their age difference and stuff, it's just like, whatever. Just watch the movie and enjoy it. They do a phenomenal job just with what they were working with. And I felt like they went in with a mission and executed it. And that's all that you can ask for when it comes to a movie that like this. So I really think that y'all definitely should check it out. 2 thumbs up and everything else. So with that said, that ends that, review. Let's go ahead and jump right into the next thing, which is Paramount Plus and everything you need to know about it. So Paramount Plus, if you guys haven't heard of it, I can't even say it's a new streaming service. It's a rebranding because right now, as it's currently known, is CBS All Access, which basically houses shows like Star Trek, Discovery, Star Trek Picard, Twilight Zone, The Stand, and it has some other stuff as well as some other shows from like Nickelodeon and everything else. They have a lot of other content on there, but that's basically what's a part of it right now. And one of the things is that you'll notice is that there's too many goddamn pluses. Like, man, Disney Plus, Discovery Plus, Apple TV Plus, like, why are you just gonna come out with another plus? I mean, it sounds good, like coming off the tongue. Paramount Plus. Okay, cool. But it sounds repetitive like a mother. But in any case, that's just a little nitpick of mine. But in any case, it is a rebranding. So it's not gonna, after March 8th, starting March 8th, it's not gonna be called CBS All Access. It's just gonna be called Paramount Plus, which is a little bit less of a mouthful. But it's going to be just really taking everything that CBS All Access has currently, and it's just going to be adding a few more new stuff, just kind of like rebranding it or whatever, and just kind of showing the difference. Now, so it's going to be available March 8th in the U.S. and Latin America, and the Nordic countries is going to be available March 25th, and in Australia is going to be available mid-2021. In Canada, is going to be released March 4th, but the newer content is going to be coming later on this year. And of course, you probably seen the Super Bowl commercial or a trailer for it or whatnot with all the other different characters from the different shows or whatever climbing up the mountain. You got Patrick Stewart trying to explain to them Paramount Plus, like, this is our new home and everything else, the cheesy bit and everything else. As far as pricing, they didn't say anything about the pricing, but more than likely it's going to be the same as we have with CBS All Access, where if you want, the cheapest route and you don't care about having ads, it's going to be $5.99. The unlimited version is going to be $9.99 with no ads, and more than likely they're going to go with that. I don't think that they're going to just be like, oh, it's $9.99. And blah, blah, blah. Because then it's like, you're going to expect no ads. So, more than likely, they're going to go with that. Some of the content that they're going to be putting on there is content from MTV, BET, Comedy Central, Nickelodeon, and, of course, the Paramount Network, which is an actual network right now, which probably a lot of people didn't know. But, yeah, I mean, that's really all that is out as far as right now. And just to note, they will be bringing back Behind the Music from VH1. a lot of us would know. Probably not the younger generation. And The Game, the movie, one of the BET shows that I've never really personally watched. It ain't like I didn't like it or anything like that. I just never really found, an interest to watch it or whatnot. But they're bringing it back. It's a revival. So if that, more than likely, that might make a lot of people happy. I think this may be like the second time it's then got revived, because I believe they did it one other time, like recently, within the past like 5 years or 10 years. I don't know, but it was recent. But that's all you really need to know. I'm already a subscriber to CBS All Access, and that was really just because they had to deal with, Prime, and for like a month it was like 99 cents or something like that, or it was like free or something like that. But I'm already a subscriber to it because I've watched Star Trek Discovery, which is an awesome show, and I'm currently trying to get through Picard or whatnot. But I haven't had enough time to keep going through it, but I'm definitely watching that. And then I want to watch the other shows, the new Twilight Zone, The Stand, and there's some other stuff that I want to check out on there. So if that interests you, definitely go ahead and check it out. Like I said, they're more than likely going to have a ad-free and a ad-provided, service, tiers or whatnot. So, I mean, you'll have your pick of whatever you want, but that's really all that they have right now. So, yeah. With that said, let's go ahead and jump right into the next thing, which is movies, upcoming movies this week. So, the movie theaters keep pressing on with the limited amount of movies that are coming out or whatnot. And we have 3 new movies that are coming out this weekend. One of them, I believe, is the more recognizable, name out of the other ones, which is called Judas and the Black Messiah, which is a movie that I definitely want to check out. It looks amazing. It has Daniel Kaluuya and Lakeith Stanfield, which both of them I am a fan of, just their acting, in like the movies that they're in. I'm a big fan because they're both phenomenal actors. And it's actually just based off real events. It's about an FBI informant in the Black Panthers gathering information or intelligence on the chairman, Fred Hampton, played by Daniel Kaluuya. And the informant is played by Lakeith Stanfield. And right now on Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 98%, which is fucking phenomenal. And on Metacritic, it has an 84%, which still is phenomenal. The next film that comes out is called Land, and it's starring Robin Wright and Damien Bichir. And it's about a local hunter who brings a grieving lawyer back from the brink of death after she retreats in the harsh wilderness of the Rockies. And right now on IMDb, it has a 6.8 out of 10. On Metacritic, 61%. And Rotten Tomatoes has it at a 60%. And the last and final film that's coming out this weekend is The Mauritanian. And it stars Shailene Woodley, Jodie Foster, and Tamir Rahim. And it's basically about a conspiracy revolving around a suspected 9/11 terrorist who is in prison in Guantanamo Bay for 6 years, and the attorney who is handling the case. And Rotten Tomatoes has it at a 63%, IndieWire at a 2 out of 5, and Metacritic at a 50%. And from the trailer, it looked like it's going to be dope. It looks like it's going to be dope. It's a movie that really, after seeing the trailer, is like, yeah, this is a movie I definitely want to check out. But out of all 3 of the films, Judas and the Black Messiah is the more interesting one to me. With the Mediterranean. I keep messing up on the name. Mauritanian. That one being like number 2, and then Land being number 3. But all of them seem very interesting films that I definitely want to check out. And I don't know. Like these 3 films, it just shows that the climate that we're in is, right now, that we don't have really too many major big films. But, Judas and the Black Messiah seems like a major, huge film, especially during Black History Month. So since I've been watching a lot of black films lately, and it's not even just by like on purpose, it's just by like, I'm definitely gonna check this one out. I'm gonna check that one out, and then it's like, oh, shit, I'm coming across a whole bunch of black films. But I'm very curious to see Judas and the Black Messiah, especially with it being based off of true events. So, I mean, out of all 3 of those, that's the one that I'm most excited about. And those are the 3 movies coming out this weekend. And so with that out the way, let's go ahead and jump right into the final thing, which is a review for the movie Lockdown, which is currently on HBO Max. And it stars Anne Hathaway as well as Chiwetel Ejiofor. I'm always not sure if I'm saying his name right, but yeah. So it's about a couple who is basically stuck during lockdown, and they're just kind of dealing with having to be stuck with everybody, with each other, since they can't leave their home and they're broken up. So now they have to kind of like tolerate each other, with both of them being on that each spectrum where a person is dictating other people's jobs and the other person has his job dictated by other people. So it's just kind of really about their chemistry. So it's very much conversation and character driven, just like Malcolm and Marie. And it takes the real life situation of COVID-19 and digs into how some people deal with the shutdown, with, like I said, both leads being on the opposite ends of the spectrum as far as the job situation goes. And it's very convenient filmmaking, and it's not saying that in a bad way, in any type of light, with just them taking advantage of the real life kind of limitations that people are dealing with having to do Zoom call-ins with, like, school work and everything else. And that's really where a lot of the other actors that are a part of this movie, that's basically when they make their appearance, is through a Skype or, Zoom type video call-in, and not actually in person. And that's not with every actor, but majority of the actors, the friends and all that stuff, that's how they make their appearance in the movie, which makes it more convenient for them not to have them on set and everything else. And it really, in this movie, doesn't seem out of place, because as of right now, temporarily, it's became the temporary norm for us to have that, especially a lot of people who have to work from home and have their kids in school and have to do homeschooling and everything else. It really doesn't seem out of place with everything that's going on. The chemistry and interactions between both of the leads is really good, as they have a love-hate relationship going on. And it's just, they're stuck in this house with each other, so they have to literally try not to get into it, rip each other's head off and everything else. And as the movie develops, you start to find out more about their relationship, why they broke up and everything else. And I really did like that. The emotion from both characters are on point. And honestly, one of the biggest aspects about this movie, I ain't gonna say the biggest, but it is significant, is toward the end, the diamond stealing aspect of the movie is a less interesting part of the film, but it's not completely a throwaway. It does have some redeeming elements to it when it gets to that point, and it has some palm sweaty type moments where it's like, are they gonna get away with it, this and that and everything else? But honestly, it is forgettable as compared to the rest of the film, and it seems to be like it was shoehorned in to an otherwise engaging film that's character and not MacGuffin driven. If you don't know what a MacGuffin is, it's just a thing that the main characters have to have in order to, push the plot forward. And it was like they were doing good all the way up to that point. Like, they really didn't need the diamond stealing aspect of the film. They could have just kept it as way it was, just two people trying to get along during the shutdown for as long as they're stuck with each other, and just going through just their mental spaces. But overall, it has dope acting, a great premise, it has good emotional parts, the chemistry is there with the leads, but like I said, the diamond part could have been taken out, because it really doesn't make the film better, more interesting. It kind of gets in the way of the story, I felt. But other than that, it is an enjoyable movie. It's very entertaining and worth checking out. Especially if you have HBO Max, go ahead, definitely check it out. And with that said, thank you guys for joining me. If you like what you've seen, go ahead and give this a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't, and turn on the notification bell. That way, you will be notified for any new thing that drops on my channel. And yeah, if you haven't checked out the other podcasts, I have it in a playlist, so go ahead, definitely check it out. I have a new video series that I'm going to be dropping the next video this week. I don't know when, but if you have your notifications on, you would know. It's called Let's Talk. I just talked last week about the WWE shift, or the WWE network shift over to Peacock TV, and when that's going to happen and everything revolving around that. So if that interests you, definitely check it out. But yeah, other than that, that's it. Thank you guys for checking me out, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Peace out.